Welcome to another episode of StuTube Legends. The market did get spooked. A lot of people over the holidays were spooked by the price action that we were getting. For those of you who have caught my last couple of streams, you'll know that I wasn't going to flip overly bearish until if or when we actually lose some sort of weekly structure. And although it looked scary at the time, support is support until it's broken. And I would much rather be a buyer at support rather than someone panic selling or shorting right into support, right? So of course this can change any day, but for now it is what it is. This is actually the 4 hour here. This also played out beautifully, but let's hop over to my weekly to start things. This is basically a couple different scenarios that I can see playing out for Bitcoin. So I have been talking about this horizontal support here, and that's just basically, that's the immediate support on the weekly, right guys? So of course that down here, you know, there's more important support levels and all that sort of stuff. But on the very immediate trend, this is the last point where we had some sort of a turnaround. We just had a red candle here and we did end up breaking higher. So with our higher high, we have a confirmed higher low. And again, this is micro analyzing. I'm looking at things swing by swing. And that is where our current confirmed higher low for the way I'm looking at things are. That's where it is. So like I was saying, yes, it's looking like we're getting close to that level. And also the fact that the RSI was dropping out of overextended territories. You know, I had my concerns that we were going to lose that support. But again, support is still support. It has not been broken yet. If it ends up breaking, that's where I would actually get very, very vocally bearish on this trend again. Some of you guys will remember last time that happened back here. I was not popular for a little bit there. People did not want to hear what I had to say. But basically with that structure break followed by a very specific bearish divergence on the RSI, if we do end up getting that kind of a setup, I think a lot of people would think that, hey, you know what, we dropped support, everybody's going to be shorting into this, but it's going to be some sort of a liquidity grab. We get a fake out, trapping all the shorts down there, get some sort of a relief rally. But if we get up to that same resistance level, but we have significantly less strength, then why would we push through, right? So it just makes sense. If you look at it that way, that, you know, relative strength index, if we're attacking the same level of resistance that we couldn't break through earlier, why would we break through it if we had less strength in the market? But we don't have that yet, right? So since we never did lose that support, I did not lose my bullish sentiment for now. For now, I'm just looking at this as, you know what, it's bull market on until we get some sort of a break like that. Even if we get the break like that, it's not guaranteed that reversal would happen, right? I would actually, if we do get it, and guys, before you go doing anything crazy, this is a very specific setup that needs to happen where I would actually consider selling a bunch of my crypto, or at least my Bitcoin, and therefore probably altcoins shortly after. If we did get that structure break followed by that bounce with that RSI divergence, either that's a double top or a STUBER FIBS, something like that, I would be willing to sell a good chunk of my crypto at that point. Something to consider with that, you guys, is every time I take a trade, whether that's spot, in this case, that would be spot, versus how I normally trade with leverage on shorter time frames, I would still have my invalidations, right? So if I did sell on that bounce where I figure that people would fall into a beautiful, just an awful bull trap, really, because as everybody would think that, hey, we're going to get wrecked here, we're shorting into this breakout, then it ends up bouncing, and as you reclaim that level, everybody thinks, okay, all-time highs, here we come, everyone gets FOMO right at resistance. It's like clockwork. We see it all the time. A lot of you guys will remember in this range, we kept seeing it every time people were getting FOMO right into those 786 resistances. Even with Trump speeches and stuff like that, people were just getting so much FOMO at those levels, and it was just the perfect scenario for sell the news events. And that's kind of what I would be looking for there. So that is one case where I would be considering that, hey, you know, even if it's not the end of the cycle, maybe it would just be some sort of, you know, a bigger pullback, a 20%, 30% pullback, whatever, right? Just, I would be looking at that as a bearish setup, just like if it was on the 5 minute or the 1 minute, I would be looking at shorting that type of a trade setup, because that's a perfect STUBER FIB if that happens. However, since it's the weekly, I'm not trading the weekly with leverage, but that's where I'd consider selling some of my bags and buying back cheaper. or just, you know, staying in stables for a while or whatever, and more so changing the way I would be trading. I'd be more so looking for bearish STUBER setups and that sort of thing to short with leverage. But I would have my invalidations, right? Because no matter how good a trade setup is, no matter how certain you are of anything, the market does not give a shit what we think or how we feel. So if this would end up, you know, we get that bearish divergence, bearish structure break, pull back up to my level, I end up selling, we just blast right through all-time highs. At that point, my theory is invalidated, and that divergence doesn't matter, and that structure break doesn't matter, and we've invalidated the structure because we set a new higher high. At that point, I would just be buying back my positions. I would be buying back slightly less because that's where the loss happened, right? It would just be a little bit of a loss on my bags, but that's how I would be treating that if it happens. And again, guys, for that even to play out, it would take, in my opinion, a month or two to even see that. And again, that is just preparing way in advance right now because we haven't lost that level yet. So what I would really like to see happen now is that we do set a higher high. Just confirm that we are still staircasing higher. And then even if we get these pullbacks, you know, if let's say we even take the root of this green line here, even at that point, if we end up seeing a big pullback to, let's say, back down here at my STUBER fib around, you know, let's say we break all the way up to 113K, for example, it would be totally normal to come back to 96K. That doesn't mean we're bearish. That just means that it's a structure break followed by a pullback to support. And that would just be very healthy price action if we get that. So obviously don't know how it's going to play out. We might just end up, you know, just taking off from here. Who knows? I'm just preparing for anything because, again, the market doesn't care what we think. All we can really do is protect ourselves and, you know, just play our probabilities, you know, buying support, selling resistance. Whenever I'm trading, I'm always playing the range first and then hoping for a breakout after, right? I'm not just not swinging at home runs with every single trade setup that there is, right? So that's kind of what I'm looking at on the weekly right now. Again, as long as we're above 91K, even all the way down towards 90.5, I'm happy with that. The 4 hour also, I think a couple weeks ago I had laid out this STUBER fib on the 4 hour. Absolutely beautiful. We came right down. We tested the 886 absolutely perfectly on that pullback where everyone was starting to get scared. And again, that's totally normal. At a bullish STUBER, it's totally normal for people to be panicking at those levels and, you know, getting sucked into a bear trap, basically, right? Just like when we get up towards my targets, that's where everyone's going to start getting extremely bullish again. So just something to consider there. And something that I really like with this, I know I posted this in the pro signals the other day. So this is one of those times where, so this is the exact opposite divergence of what I was looking at on the weekly potentially happening. So this is on the 4 hour and we went from extreme overextended conditions, right? Anything below this green dotted line here is technically oversold, as people like to say. If it was in a downtrend, it actually means that there's just a shit ton of selling pressure. But in an uptrend, I am willing to give it a little bit of weight, say that, yes, it's probably a little bit oversold. And then to see us come back to that same support level inside that same range, the same fib pocket, but we have more strength, right? Because we are not in oversold territory here. So we're coming to the same support level with significantly more strength. So it makes sense that we bounced from that level, right? Just looking at things, zooming right into the 5 minute, more so what people want to be looking at for the immediate term, right? Actually, I will go back to the 4 hour in a second, but I just want to go over because I know some people were asking about STUBER fibs and stuff in the chat recently. I did show these couple, I think it was this one, the one I'm currently in, actually, I laid out ahead of time. Basically, I had one here where this is just very basic market structure, you guys, right? I know a lot of people are asking me about STUBER fibs. They're super simple and they're very structured, and that's why I basically only trade them. There's other things I bring into my trade setups for looking for confluence and stuff where I'll, you know, consider going heavier or lighter in a position, kind of a thing. But generally speaking, what I look for is structure breaks followed by pullbacks. And here's a perfect example where, you know, here, this is what I was talking about. We have our high and we have our higher high. So I have a fib pulled from the lowest point between the two to where we topped out. And look where we end up pulling back to. The price ends up coming back into my purple box here, taps it a few times, and then takes off. Easily hit my couple of, easily hit my couple of take profits there. And then same thing happens, right? When I was talking about things can pull back after a big structure break, and it's totally normal, just like on the 5-minute here, right? So we had my new higher high. We set a new higher high. So then I'm pulling a fib from the lowest point between the two. That's right there. Let me just get rid of this old one just because I don't want it to get too messy on us here. But I pull a fib from there to where we topped out. Where did we come back to? Once again, testing that 786, 886 fib pocket perfectly, hitting a few of my take profits on the way. Now, the one we have right now, I'm not as confident about. And I'll just tell you the little bit of a difference here, because this looks like it would be basically the exact same thing, right? And this is where a lot of people get STUBER fibs mixed up a lot, is that, oops. This looks like, since basically we have our structure break here and we have our high and our higher high. So I'm just going to pull a fib from here. Yes, that is where I currently have this box outlined, but I want to just go over why I think there's added risk on this position if we were to take a long out of this purple box here. I still have a little bit of my old long position running, and I never even updated my stop loss just because I'm not worried about that one either way. It's risk-free. I paid myself on it. It's doing fine, so I'm okay with losing a little bit on the rest of the position. But here, what we have, it looks very similar. However, we have this high, and we technically have this higher high, and this one is very slightly higher. Now, I know a lot of people will want to jump down my throat and say that, you know, that's way too micro-analyzing, that's not proper structure, whatever. That's totally fine. You don't have to trade these. But looking at that, that would be our lowest point between the two. So that's my confirmed higher low. And technically we dropped that. So yes, it makes sense that we're pulling back down to the bottom of the range, but just the fact that this was the higher low, this one, I don't know if I want to consider that the higher low anymore. So there's just this added risk, right? Because the structure, although it looks the same, it is very slightly different. And I just wanted to outline that just because, you know, there is, obviously there's a chance that any trade setup doesn't work out, but this one just has a little bit added risk because the structure is so very slightly different there. But it is what it is. So far, we're still obviously in a beautiful uptrend throughout the day. Yes, we had this volatility, but everything's looking great. It's been a fun day trading this kind of volatility for those of you who have been trading with me. I just want to bring up some indicators as well, because like I said, obvious uptrend. I don't really want to bet against the trend right now, even when I'm feeling like shorting things, like some of the altcoins that I'm holding. I'm going to say shorting, but more so it's actually coin accumulation. It's actually how I started trading. I don't think anybody should just jump into trading and just start leverage trading for the hell of it. Obviously, it's tempting. There's a lot of reward that can be there, but it's obviously very risky. But a perfect example would be Based AI. You know, it's a coin that I'm comfortable holding. All I really want to do at this point is I am selling and buying it back cheaper once in a while when I see a good entry where I think that I can just accumulate a little bit more for free. And this is a perfect example where we had this bearish STUBER fib here. So I ended up selling just a chunk of my position. I wanted to hold some just in case I'm wrong, right? But I did sell a chunk of my holdings with the intentions of buying them back at the bottom of this range here. So I did. Yeah, you know what? It could absolutely just continue dumping off a cliff. And then I'm still obviously going to be losing money in that process. But I don't care because I'm comfortable holding that position anyways. That's just one of my spot investments. And I just want to accumulate more of it for free every chance I can get, kind of a thing. IQ is another one. I've been doing that a little bit. And here's a perfect example, right? Even on these meme coins and these Solana memers, we're seeing the STUBER fibs be respected, right? Here we had our high, higher high, pulling the fib from the higher low, lowest point between the two, and look where we end up finding support. So that's why I just love these setups so much, is because you see them so often and they're just so structured, and they just work with so many different things. There was actually, I wanted to point out, a lot of people love following the DXY. To be quite honest, Bitcoin and the DXY do not need to go opposite directions or anything like that. I know a lot of people think that it has to. That's not the case. It can do whatever the hell it wants. But yes, quite often that does happen. But a lot of you guys might actually remember from my streams back in September. I think when we were kind of trading in this area here, I was saying that technically we had this structure break right here on the DXY. That's my bullish structure break because we had our low, lower low. That was our lower high. We ended up breaking that. So that doesn't mean long the hell out of something like this. I know it's the DXY, but if this was Bitcoin, for example, just because you break structure doesn't mean, oh, well, let's long the hell out of this, right? And that's where a lot of people get trading mixed up, is that just because they spot a bullish entry doesn't mean they're, or not even a bullish entry, a bullish signal. They still might not know how to play it, right? So that's where Fibonacci's really come into play, that, hey, I already knew I wanted to enter down here, but I didn't know that until this. Up here is where I would know that, hey, this is something I'm interested in longing right now, but the entry is, that doesn't mean the entry's right there. So that's a perfect use of how I like to use these Fibonacci's, and why I was saying back here that, hey, you know, technically we still are at support. This range never changed. We ended up breaking that, getting that bullish signal on the DXY. So we set a new high, and then we have our confirmed low, and we never did break out of that range until recently. And as I was saying back here that, you know, I thought there was a good chance, since we had that bullish break there, I thought there was a good chance that we break out of this range here and end up targeting the exact opposite fib pull, right? So just pulling from our high here, where the DXY topped out, to where it bottomed out. That's why I've had this red box here outlined for months at this point, as potential for the DXY to climb to that level. Now, again, I'm not a personal believer in the DXY and Bitcoin need to do opposites. I do not really use the DXY to affect my trading. I would rather analyze one chart and micro-analyze the hell out of it than to consider all these other things, the DXY, the stablecoin dominance, the all Bitcoin dominance, all these things. Yes, obviously there's a time and a place when those come in handy, but as if you're looking at those things to, you know, fix your basic technical analysis understanding, then it's just complicating things, right? Because then you have significantly more places where you can make errors. I treat the news the same. Anytime there's FOMC meetings, any sort of financial data, anything like that being given to us by what's his name, old Jerome Powell there. Any of those things, yes, we can jump to our conclusions with how we think that's going to affect the economy and therefore how it's going to affect crypto. But in the grand scheme of things, I mean, if you're going to try and say that analyzing a few trend lines or Fibonacci's is, it's easier to understand the entire global economy rather than a few indicators and trend lines, I mean, you're sadly mistaken, right? So that's where a lot of people also, COVID was a perfect example. Everyone thought that, well, that's it for the market. Nobody's going to have money for food. Nobody's going to have jobs, nothing like that. But then, you know what? We all misunderstood it. They turned on the money printer and then it was a straight on bull market from there, right? So that's just why I try to keep things quite simple. And basically that's why I don't give too much credit to the DXY. Yes, obviously quite often they're reverse correlated, but I don't know. I won't trade based just off that or anything like that. Griffane, I know this is one that's been popular in the group lately. So this one, it makes sense that it's pulling back a little bit because, again, same thing, right? All we did, we had this high back here. We finally set a higher high, and this was a while back. When did we set this high? That was back the start of December, so 3 weeks or so ago, when we set this all-time high, and we have just recently broken that. It makes a lot of sense that you break structure and then you pull back, right? So we could pull all the way back towards 22, even lower, down towards 19, 18 cents. That's damn near, well, that's about a 50% pullback. And in my opinion, that would still be healthy structure on the 4 hour. Yeah, the shorter time frames, maybe it's not going to pull back that far. But as it stands right now, I guess what I'm saying is this structure is bullish no matter how bearish it feels. If it comes way back down to these levels, that would be very healthy price action. And the only reason it would feel scary is because it's so healthy that it's actually pulling back and retesting support, kind of a thing. So that's another one that on shorter time frames I've been selling chunks of it and then trying to buy back more of it for free. So that's another one I've been coin accumulating like that. Basically, based AI, Griffane, and IQ are the ones that I've been kind of building positions that way recently. I don't want to get too much on the go, or I'm going to forget where my funds are, where things are. But yeah, going back to Bitcoin on the 5-minute, let's just see what some of the indicators are saying here, Legends. Trend Master, this is probably my favorite indicator out of all the MDX algo indicators. It's not so much that I take every trade signal, as the gospel kind of a thing. Like this sell signal, I'm not overly interested in it, to be honest. And that reason is just because it's way higher. We're in such a strong uptrend right now that we have this higher sell signal. And, I'm pretty much going to guarantee at this point we're going to see a higher buy signal at some point. So I really like to use this indicator, the Trend Master, for spotting a trend where I can see which direction overall the buy and sell signals are going. That's how I've personally really liked to use it. I actually, if you go into the settings, if you like the way I have it set up, I do have indicator presets too on the Trend Master indicator. MDX ended up putting StuTube trading in here as a preset. So if you want yours to look just like mine, that's the ticket right there. But yeah, so that's kind of how I like to use that. So the sell signal, not taking it all too serious at this point. If anything, if we did end up getting a very steep correction with that, I'd be willing to consider looking for a new STUBER fib, a much bigger one, right? At that point, I think I would just wait out the market, just see when I end up getting some sort of a new bullish structure break or something like that, or we pull all the way back down to something like this. This is basically just the last pivotal point right before our last buy signal here. And so I would be expecting if this sell signal does reverse us and retrace this entire move, I would assume that we're going to get some sort of a higher buy signal around my STUBER fib pocket. So that's definitely something that I would be watching for if we end up getting it. I don't care if that happens. I'm not overly interested in shorting the market right now, but I'm very interested in longing any sort of bullish setup that I see after a retrace. That doesn't mean that, just because someone's bullish, that doesn't mean go long right now, 100x kind of a thing, right? You still want to pick your entries, especially with leverage, especially with high leverage and lower time frames and that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm quite bullish on this trend still, both for Bitcoin, altcoins, you name it. I do actually, since I looked at the DXY, I do want to look at the Bitcoin dominance chart. Very interesting to see where we topped out on the weekly chart there. So this is basically exactly what I was talking about, how I would get bearish on Bitcoin, especially that this is also a weekly chart, is we lost some structure, right? So the fact that we broke this structure, we broke this beautiful uptrend, no matter how you look at it, whether we look at it diagonally or we lose this support or we lost this support, however you want to look at it, we broke the uptrend and look where we ended up pulling back to, perfectly testing the 786 there. So even though something feels like it takes a long time, like if Bitcoin is going to do something like this, again, big if, and I laid out the scenario earlier, but if it does happen, it would take a while, right? And everyone would think that, with this, let's just take all our emotions out of it. Let's pretend this chart right now is Bitcoin and not the Bitcoin dominance. So many people, as they saw this, would be FOMO shorting into that, right? And that's very natural, but it's so natural for the market after breaking structure to see some sort of a pullback, and specifically to the 786 gets respected so often. So I love to see this chart, honestly. The fact that Bitcoin dominance does seem to be getting rejected at the 786. Obviously, it can bounce at any time because it would have hit the first target already. But that's just good for the market, in my opinion. Prices are bouncing. There seems to be a lot of hope in the market, but the Bitcoin dominance is dropping. So there is actually money flowing into altcoins and stuff like that. And the market seems to be thriving at this point. So ever since basically bouncing off that weekly / 4-hour support, the whole market is just looking great to me. See now even that sell signal, it's having it's having a hard time holding. I mean, technically we're just testing it right now, but yeah, I just feel like this sell signal probably isn't going to. I wouldn't be comfortable just shorting this just based on that signal alone. Let's put it that way. Some of the indicators, Wavemaster kind of looks like it was bottoming out. RSI never went overextended, but did start getting a bullish divergence. So yeah, just some warnings that, you know, maybe that bearish signal isn't going to play out. So Zeus loving the Griffin. Yeah, that's been a good performer, man. Well, ever since it tested that Stuber down there, basically came down to the 886 and pumped 150% within I don't know, a few days, basically. Yeah, that was very nice. Man, some of these altcoins, they have such massive ranges. So obviously, trading with leverage is dangerous. Obviously, for those of you trading altcoins with leverage, just understand, always know when you're getting into a position. Understand what worst case scenario is. Understand how much you could lose on your position before entering, basically. Because a lot of the moves look a lot smaller than they are. And there's even the chance that it's like, oh, I'm going to have my stop loss. You know, I'm going to enter right here with leverage and my stop loss is going to be right here. That's nice and tight. All of a sudden with a little leverage and how big these ranges actually are, you know, all of a sudden you get liquidated before your stop loss ever hits. So, but honestly, you know, too many people rely too much on leverage. You know, there's a lot of money to be made in spot positions as well. And honestly, like I said at the beginning of the stream, I think most people should trade spot more so than leverage. It's a lot easier to keep a level head, especially in the early days, right? Obviously, yes, eventually we all want to be trading with leverage, but especially in the early days, trading with spot is just so much safer and so much, especially if you can look at it as, you know, that's why I really like the coin building approach, is because you can really disconnect yourself from the value completely and just say, I don't care what the value is, I just want more coins. And at that point, when you can remove yourself from that emotional attachment to your dollars, then it makes it a lot easier to trade as well, right? All right, let us start taking, sorry guys, I'm just going to catch up on the chat here and just take a look at some of the altcoin requests. First request, Tia, 1 hour. I did actually want to look at that. Oh, this is the weekly chart. Let's go to the hourly. I can tell you already, I love this chart for a few reasons. One, the obvious one to me, is that we had this lower high on the trend, because obviously low, lower low, lower high, there's our bullish signal. Where do we end up pulling to when we end up finding resistance? Oh, look at that, 786 perfectly, and, you know, taking off from there. Currently up about 10% from that 786. So yeah, that's looking nice. The fact that it broke that structure is supporting, you know, so far, well, holding that higher low in the Stuber box. I think that's a lot of strength there. Even looking at other things, right, like diagonal trend lines, there's just so many breakouts that happened. This one back here, let's say even on the micro trend, as it was pulling back into the fib pocket, obviously we got that structure break as well. If you're really zooming in, there's just so many bullish structure breaks that look like happened there. RSI is, it definitely got into overextended conditions. But again, in a bull market, in an uptrend, that could just mean that there's a lot of buying pressure. And if the RSI could get back into overbought territory, I think that's where this thing would grow some legs and continue running. Right now, yeah, the fact that the Wavemaster was kind of lining up with this area, yeah, maybe it just needed to cool off. But even if this thing is trying to pull back, it's looking like there's a lot of strength. I mean, to me, it looks more like a bull flag, if anything, but it's just having a very tight consolidating downward. It's not like it was panicked, like someone had a massive sell order set that triggered panic or anything like that. It looks good in my opinion. Trendmaster, look where we're finding support so far, right off the Trendmaster buy signal. This is one of those times that technically it is a lower buy signal, so take it for what it is. It's still nice to see that it's there for a little bit of confluence, but they are still trending downwards. The fact that we broke above this sell signal makes me think we're probably going to get a higher sell followed by a higher buy, in which case that would just be kind of confirming that, hey, it looks like the trend is shifting to the upside here. But yeah, I'm seeing some early warning signs there that it's, I shouldn't say warnings, bullish warnings. Good warnings. Looks good to me. The automatic STUBER FIBS are not valid there. GME on Sol. I will definitely take a look at that after. First come, first serve. On the 4 hour. Holy man, that thing really went for a run. What kind of a... Oh, that buy signal. That is nice. So actually, guys, here's a perfect example of what I was just talking about. And honestly, has been one of my favorite strategies when it comes to starting altcoin positions. One thing that I really like doing, and obviously do your own research, form your own opinions by all means. I am not a fundamental guy, but one thing that I love doing with this Trendmaster indicator is what I was just talking about with the leverage positions as well. But right here, we have that higher sell signal followed by a higher buy signal, and just look at what happened to the price when that happens. Doesn't happen every time, but so often that's a very strong indication that there's a big trend shift happening. I know it happened with Trio, it happened with Swarm, it happened with so many coins that went on big runs where they got this signal on a 4 hour, or some of them even on a daily, and then even the daily buy signals in general on the small caps, the newer coins, man, they can just print some serious gains. So I absolutely love this indicator specifically for spot trading. Spot trading and just spot buying, spot accumulating, whatever you want to say. So yeah, I love that it printed that, but obviously now, I mean, we could keep pulling back quite a ways. Let's just go bear structure here. So yeah, I can see an obvious bearish STUBER there where we had this high, higher high, it's the lowest point between the two. There's our bearish structure break. Pull the fib, get rejected. 786886 would have been a beautiful entry for a short in that case, or selling some of taking some profits on a position, that sort of thing. Because understand that this structure break, as micro analyzed as this seems, that never happened since, well, it hasn't happened this whole trend. That's the first time this has happened. This is very different than this, because this, we never set a higher high after this, right? So we never had a confirmed higher low. If you were assuming this was a higher low, that's just jumping the gun a little bit, but there wasn't a confirmed one in the structure, right? So the higher low was still down here. Just like before that, the higher low was back here, and before that it was back here, and before that was way down here. So that trend officially broke right there. So that is something to consider. Something else to consider with that is that it could have played out already, right? Because if we were playing that as a STUBER fib, I mean, there's your range play, basically when it gets to the 214 fib. So now, yes, it's still trending down. What it needs to do is just break this downtrend, basically, since we're obviously setting lower lows and lower highs. Lower low, lower low, lower low. This would be our current lower high. So the price needs to break at least that. And obviously, if we keep carrying on down, let's say we just keep staircasing, then we're going to be confirming lower highs on the way down. But as it stands right now, where this green line is, that's my line in the sand that I would want to see it break. And after that break, that's where, again, going back to the whole, just because something breaks structure doesn't mean that it's going to just take off right then. So what I would more so expect is what would be great for an entry would be if we did take out that sort of structure and then get our pullback to a STUBER FIBS, something like that. Rather than FOMOing into the breakout. And yes, obviously that means that you could miss it, right? That's something that you have to consider. And obviously we miss trades all the time. But that's more so what I'd be looking for is that change in structure there, followed by a pullback would be the ideal entry in my opinion. GME on Sol. Can I just look at this on here now? I feel like those are... I have a feeling this is a... that might be the same one. No, I don't think so. Let me just check my other device. What is the price of the one you're talking about? Let me just find it here. It's at 0.0002. That's the one we want. Fuck it. Let's go to where I know. Or wait, is this it? This is the one that you wanted, I think.
Yeah. Check the daily. That little pump. The old roaring kitty.
There we go. There we go. Yeah, see again, like this is one that I personally still like the structure on this. Yeah, it's not moving too fast or anything, but we keep setting these higher lows, higher highs. We just basically have a nice support range. I really let's just see here. Just like yeah, there's quite a few touch points right there, I would say. I would say that's a pretty active trend line. Obviously all the way to back here. First saw some support there temporarily, saw some support here, saw resistance through here, support, resistance, support, 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 support. So I do like, that's a strong level of support, right? Still 49.62 thousand holders of it, so there's definitely a community there. Volume, 3 mil volume, not bad volume. I've seen better, but not bad. Yeah, I still like the look of that. It just looks like a beautiful double bottom there. What is the RSI? I would have liked to see the RSI in oversold conditions there, but whatever. It is what it is. It is a little bit of a bullish divergence there at double bottom territory. And it looks like there may also be... this might be... Nah, that's not a very good trend line. I don't want to rush something like that. But yeah, end of the story is it's at a nice support level in my opinion. I don't know, as long as that doesn't go belly up for some reason, I don't see why it would. It's kind of been around for a while. It looks to be like one of those things that just randomly blows up, right? Just like it did back here, just like it did here. All it really takes is Roaring Kitty to post something on Twitter and all of a sudden you get one of those big moves, right? So yeah, I like that one as far as a memer goes.
Posted a picture of Dave Chappelle in his Rick James costume, or he posted a GIF.
Oh, um,
That pump, that last little pump.
yeah, this guy here.
No, go to the like a while back.
Oh, like
Yeah,
that.
right there. December 1st.
Oh,
December 1st. There it is.
this
Yeah,
guy.
he posted a that's all he did. He just posted that one thing and kaboom it went for a few
Yeah,
minutes.
Oh,
you know.
exactly. I'm sure he's probably being somewhat careful ever since the whole debacle that happened with him, but like he's
He's
still
super
gonna say the
methodical.
odd thing, and everything's gonna react to it, right?
Hmm. Yeah, he's hilarious.
Yeah, yeah, I like that. I should pick up a little more of that. Maybe I'll sell a little
You
IQ
say that
invest.
every time you look at this chart, brother.
And I usually do. Usually Thursday nights, I put in a little order of GME just for you.
Hey, just to add to the joke.
um, Holy Griffain's
Yeah,
trying
funny to watch it grind along.
what's that?
It's fun to watch it just grind along. It just won't quit.
Yeah. Trio. I can check out Trio. Trio was definitely one that I was looking at because of that same Trendmaster higher buy signals thing I was talking about earlier. Basically, this is where I started buying. It was right around $1.70 because we got that higher buy signal on the Trendmaster 4 hour. Like I said, when it comes to spot buying, that's one of my favorite things to look for. Right now, what can we look for? And take it for what it is, because analyzing something like this can be invalidated so easily because there's such low trade volume on it. Like, for one, I want to say right now, for anybody who's buying this coin, use limit orders, not market orders, at least if you're using any sort of big size, because you can clear an order book pretty quick. But we do have higher high. We still have those higher buy signals, higher sell signals. If I was looking for a Fibonacci, I'd go from the lowest point between my high and my higher high. And look where we are right now, technically getting into those support levels. So yes, I understand that a lot of people were upset, that the price was coming down and stuff like that, but that's very healthy price action. I mean, especially after just looking at this, if we were looking at this immediate trend, this obviously would have been our last high, higher low. Oh God. One of these. We did technically break below that, and that was kind of our warning shot that we might end up trending to the downside, right? So now we need, I mean, it even looks like we may have taken out the downtrend already. At least there's the chance that we did there. So this pullback here, I mean, yeah, that's basically a 886 double bottom kind of a thing there. But yeah, it makes sense that we pulled back to the levels we did. It's just we came back to the 786, 886 after breaking the highs. That's very natural price action. It's just that obviously a lot of people were buying into the highs. Again, when you get that bullish signal that, hey, we broke structure, it's time to buy. No, that's your signal that, yeah, it's a bullish structure there, but that doesn't mean it's time to buy at that level. That's where you're looking for those pullbacks. And now that we're at this level, in my opinion, it's a decent buy level again. I did sell a quarter of it up there, and I'm tempted to buy some of that back as well.
No, send it to $28.
Hey man, if it wants to go above $10, it wants to hit 20 or $40, I will not be the one complaining, that's for sure. I would love to see it happen, but yeah, it needs trading volume. It just needs, I think now that the market
needs
has
Bitcoin.
actually found some support, obviously when Bitcoin was in a scary place, then altcoins, especially altcoins specifically tied into Bitcoin, are going to get hammered pretty hard, right? But I don't know, we just came right back into support. Looks good to me. Padre. Oh, it's an ETH. Am I looking at, oh God, am I looking at the right one? I mean, it already had a 25x, so I don't know if I'd want to be FOMOing into it right now. But that's one of those times too, right, where we just kept setting these lower lows. Lower low. Lower low. Lower high. No, technically it got broken there, and then we did go slightly below. What did that get us? Yeah, that would have been a bit of a fake out. But then when it broke the downtrend again, especially when it formed this rounding bottom, would have broke. I don't know how you'd want to draw this. I mean, I'd draw it something like this if I was looking for a trend line for some sort of a wedge breakout. Beautiful wedge breakout there with the retest and everything, and then followed by a little double bottom and absolutely took off from there. Yeah, at this point, that starts to be a little bit scary, but I know nothing about the project, right? I have no idea what the market cap is. I have no idea what they do, nothing about it. As far as a chart perspective goes, the fact that it lost this level concerns me. Because even if it bounces now, there's a good chance that it would have some resistance up here. Not to say that it can't just, something that would be quite natural would be climb up here, test that resistance again, and then, just break it the next time. That would be fine too. It's just important to recognize that since we did get this bearish structure break right here, this could be where the market ends up taking a turn again, or this coin specifically. That's on the 4 hour. Also, the automatic STUBER FIBS are pointing out support significantly lower, so that would actually line up with that as well. Sometimes I like to check the ALGO Master. For those of you who don't know, it does have automatic STUBER FIBS built in. They are usually fairly parallel to what mine are. There's the odd time where they are slightly different. It just waits for different confirmations and that sort of thing. But I love checking them as a second opinion, just to check mine to see if there's any I'm missing or anything like that. So yeah, to see that it is pointing out the STUBER fib down here, I would say there's still a good chance that it could, come down significantly lower yet. What kind of a percentage pullback would that be? That would be another 65% correction to the downside if that's going to happen. Maybe the downtrend has ended already. I mean, we could look at this as support. It looks more like a failed breakout, if anything, to me right now. If we could confidently get some candle bodies closing above that, and then some sort of a higher low STUBER fib, something like that, in that case, maybe it would be a decent chance to get it back into it, kind of a thing. I have my red flags. That's it. But again, I know nothing about it. So for all I know, there's something in the bullish fundamentals, because obviously these ones that go nuts like this, they're fairly new. So maybe something fundamentally happened, and that's just going to be a liquidity grab and just take off from there. Who knows, right? But just there is a couple of red flags there. The 1 hour printed a lower buy signal, so if it printed a lower sell signal to go with that, I would also have my concerns with that. I think that would be confirming that there's potentially a bigger move to the downside. Actually, notice where I laid out that STUBER fib on the 1 hour. This is where the ALGO Master, it overlaps mine perfectly, right? So it's laying it out the exact same way I am. So yeah, there's definitely some resistance up there if we bounce, right? AIXBT 1 hour. Looking like the auto fibs are already spitting one out at us here. Potential support down there. That would also line up with setting a slightly higher buy signal. Again, like what I was talking about earlier, right? We obviously, beautiful uptrend, just a series of higher sell signals, higher buy signals. So, if we did pull back a little bit further, there might be some good entries down in here. Yeah, nothing really jumping out at me there. Yeah, basically, I think it does make sense that it would pull back a little bit further, because notice that it also, I know I'm a broken record at this point, but here's another perfect example, right? Here's where we had that structure change. We had this high, slightly higher high. There's our higher low. We lose that, and then where do we end up pulling back to? So that's STUBER fib, perfect rejection. Yeah, wicked a little bit higher, nowhere near my invalidation, and the candle bodies never did close above that box, so just a perfect rejection there. Still just setting lower low, lower low. Looks to me like we're heading down a little further. Obviously that can change at any time, but that's just what it looks like to me. How is everything going? Nothing has... Here, let me actually just reload my Bitcoin page here. Hopefully that's what I get. Yeah, perfect. All right, let me clean things up a little bit. Yeah, so we never even did come down to that 786,886 fib pocket on Bitcoin's 5-minute. Obviously, nothing's changed on the 4-hour or the weekly, but everything's still looking good to me, guys. I'm really liking what I see in the markets. And yes, altcoins, some are going to go up, some are going to go down. In my opinion, they're probably going to move in waves. You know, you're going to see AI coins boom, and you're going to see RWAs boom. You're going to see meme coins boom. There's going to be a bunch of them that move in waves together. And then there's going to be others that don't, right? But I think we're at that point in the market cycle where with Bitcoin dominance dropping, the fact that Bitcoin is comfortably holding above 90K, that weekly support level, you know, everything just feels good to me at this point. Obviously that can change. As soon as we lose that weekly structure, my theory goes out the window and I will be considering the downside at that point. But there's a lot of time between now and then, so it still looks good to me. Anyways, legends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. Hopefully you guys did find this stream useful. For those of you watching this on my YouTube channel a little bit later, if you are interested in joining the MDX ALGO community and gain access to my favorite indicators on TradingView, there is a link down below which gives you a 10% discount on checkout. I'm personally doing most of my trading on Blofin. I have maxed out the trading fees cashback, so you actually get 20% of your trading fees back in your funding account when you use my link to join Blofin. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.